Okay, so for chapter 9, you will need to still remember how to factor. So we're going to review some factoring, and then you will have about 4 or 5 questions that you will need to do for homework. All right, so first thing you need to review is your factor steps. So factoring steps, the first factoring steps is check for a GCF and take it out. So the biggest thing is with all of these, your answer should always look like your original. So when you take a GCF out, it should look something like this. If you just have the x plus 2, then that would not be a complete answer. Your second step is if you have 4 terms, then you're going to group it. And then if there are 3 terms, that's the one where you would change it to 4 terms, then you can group. And then the last one we talked about was a pattern. So if you have something that looks like this, satisfies those conditions, then it would factor to that answer. And again, factoring should be multiplication, but no dots and no x's, no x for multiplication. So the nice thing about these steps is the only one that has to be done first is number 1. So you can check for GCF and take it out, and then you can jump to pattern if you need to. So we're going to do some examples. So here's the first one. So if I need to factor this, my first step is check for GCF and take it out. So there is a GCF. If you look at it, you can see that both terms can be divided by 12. So I'm going to take out a 12. And then when we're taking it out, we're really dividing. So 12x divided by 12 leaves us with x or 1x. 24y divided by 12 leaves us with 2y. This would be our final answer. So again, you would not want to write 12 dot x plus 2y or 12x. This would be your answer. And we can always check it. If we remultiply, 12 times x is 12x. 12 times 2y is 24y. So you should get the original when you check it. All right, so here's our second one. So same thing. We're going to look for a GCF. So our GCF is, let's see, we can divide each term by a 2. We can also divide each term by 1a, and we can divide each term by 1b. So that's our GCF. So 4a squared b squared divided by 2ab leaves us with 2ab. 2a squared b divided by 2ab leaves us with positive 1a. And then 10ab squared divided by 2ab leaves us with negative 5. Our a's go away, and 1b. So here would be our final answer. And again, if you remultiply, you will get that original answer. All right, so example 2. First step is look for a GCF. There is no GCF, nothing I can divide all of those by. There are 4 terms, so I can group. So I'm going to group these 2 and these 2. So common factor between those 2 is an a. I end up with a minus 4c, and then plus. Common factor between those 2 is b. I am left with a minus 4c. So that would be your first step of work. I am not done because I am adding. So now my 2 parentheses, so parentheses times parentheses, 1 parenthesis is a minus 4c. If I take that out, I'm left with a plus b. So there would be your answer. The only other way you can have this answer is a plus b and then a minus 4c. That will work as well. So here's letter B. So again, nothing that all 4 have in common. So you cannot, there's no GCF, but it does have 4 terms. So we can group. So these 2 have an x in common. When I take that out, I'm left with 2x minus 3z. And then I'm going to write plus. This is really a negative 2. So these have a y in common, so I can take out a y. So if I take out a negative 2, or I'm sorry, so I'm left with a negative 2x and a positive 3z. But these don't match, so I would want to take out a negative 1 here instead, which would make this a positive 2 and a negative 3. So now our 2 answers, our 2 parentheses are 2x minus 3z times x minus y. All right, example 3. There is no common factor, so nothing I can take out. It is not 4 terms, but it is 3 terms. So I can keep the first, change the middle, and keep the last. So now the middle two have to multiply to give us 15x squared, and they have to add to give us negative 8. The only thing that will work is a negative 5x and a negative 3x. And remember, it doesn't matter which one you put first. So now I can group these two. These have an x in common. We get x minus 5. These two I can take out a negative 3 so that I get the x minus 5. So my answer would be x minus 5 and x minus 3. I will show you a shortcut for these. All right, so here is letter B. So I'm just going to rewrite this one so we can see. All right, so letter B, same kind of thing. So there's no GCF. It is not 4 terms, but it is 3 terms. So we can do exactly what we did for letter A. And remember, for letter A, you can write x minus 3, x minus 5. So we're going to keep the first, we're going to change the middle, we're going to keep the last. So now I need two things that multiply to give you negative 48x squared and add to give us negative 2x. So if you think of 48, so you're looking for things that multiply to give you 48, add to give you negative 2. The only thing that's going to work is 6 and 8. To give a negative 2, it would have to be a negative 8x and a positive 6x. And again, you can put the positive 6 here. So we need those two things will add to give us negative 2, multiply to give us negative 48. So now we can group. So we can take an x out of this one. We get x minus 8. This one we'd want to take out a 6. We get x minus 8. So our answer would be x minus 8 times x plus 6, or x plus 6 times x minus 8. So the shortcut is, if this is 1, which it is in both of these, then you can go right to the two parentheses, and it's going to be what multiplies to give you 15 adds to give you negative 8, negative 5, negative 3. What multiplies to give you negative 48 adds to give you negative 2, negative 8, and 6. So we can go right to those. So I'm going to show you that with letter C. It does not work that way if this term is not 1, and we'll see that in the next example. All right, so there's no GCF. It is not 4 terms, it is 3. It is 3 terms, and my leading coefficient is 1, so I can, shortcut-wise, go right to two parentheses. What multiplies to give me 10 times x squared, so 10x squared, and adds to give me 11x. Okay, so the shortcut is we're going to write an x and an x. What multiplies to give you 10, adds to give you 11 is a 10 and a 1, and they both have to be positive. Again, you can write x plus 1 first, and then the x plus 10. It does not work when this term is not 1, so you can only do that if you don't have a number in front. All right, so let's look at example 4. So same thing. Is there a GCF? No. Is it 4 terms? No, but it is a trinomial. So this one has a number in front, so I cannot use that shortcut. So I'm going to keep the first term, I'm going to change the middle, and I'm going to keep the last term. All right, so these two terms have to multiply to give us 2a squared times negative 24, so negative 48a squared, and they have to add to give us 13a. Okay, so now you're going to have to think about this. It's not 6 and 8, it's not 4 and 12, but 16 does go into 48, so it's a positive 16a and a negative 3a. So those will multiply to give us negative 48, add to give us 13. So your answer is not going to be this, and this is what a lot of people do, is they'll find those two numbers and they'll do this, but this will give us a squared plus 13a minus 48. We need it to give us 2a squared and a negative 24, so this won't work. Okay, so now I can group. These two I can take out a 2a, I get a plus 8. These two I would take out a negative 3, and I get a plus 8. So my two parentheses, a plus 8 and 2a minus 3. And again, you do need to show work. All right, so here's letter B. So there's no GCF. It's not 4 terms, it is 3. So we're going to make it 4 terms. We're going to keep the first, change the middle, keep the last. So those two middle have to multiply to give us the first times the last. So negative 30 x squared, and they have to add to give us negative 13x. So that'll be a 10 and a 3, so 10x and a 3x, or you could put the 3 first, doesn't matter. They both, oops, that will not work. Because, so here's why these won't work. In order to give it a negative 13 when you add, these both would have to be negative. But negative 10 and negative 3 doesn't give us negative 30. Wonder if this one is written incorrectly. Let's see, 1 and 30 don't work, 2 and 15. So we're going to keep the first, we're going to change it to a negative 15x and a positive 2x. Okay, so there's our 4 terms, so now I can group these two and these two. So be careful. Make sure you check before you continue once you get the two numbers. So now I can take out a 3 and an x, I get x minus 5. This one I can take out a 2 and I get x minus 5. So my factored answer is x minus 5 times 3x plus 2. Alright, so then letter C. Again, we've got, there's no GCF, but it is a trinomial. So we can keep the first, change the middle, keep the last. So the middle two have to multiply to give us negative 30x squared and add to give us negative 7. So when you're thinking about those, let's see, you've got 3 and 10 will work. So it would have to be a negative 10 and a positive 3. So those will add to give you negative 7, multiply to give you negative 30. We can group these two. These have a common factor of a 2 and an x. You end up with 3x minus 5. These would have a 1 in common, so you end up with 3x minus 5. So your answer would be 3x minus 5 times 2x plus 1. So there would be your answer for that one. All right, one more example. So the last example. So there is no GCF. And this is definitely, the only thing it could be is a pattern. So this is like your a squared and this is your b squared. So this is y times y and this is 9 times 9. So your answer will be y and 9, 1 plus, 1 minus. Does not matter which one is first. So you could have the minus first and then the plus. Here's letter B. So letter B, I'm going to rewrite this one. Alright, so letter B, this is 8 squared, or 8 times 8, and this is 5x squared, or 5x times 5x. So your two parentheses, your 8 is going to go first, and your 5x goes second, and then 1 plus, 1 minus, and I forgot to ask or mention there's no GCF. Okay, and so letter C, the last example. First step, there is a GCF. So that's your first step. Take out that GCF. So we're going to take out a 3. 3x squared divided by 3 is x squared. 3 divided by 3 is minus 1. This is still a pattern. X squared is x times x, and 1 is 1 times 1, or 1 squared. So that's going to turn into two parentheses. Your x is going to go first. 1 goes second. 1 plus, 1 minus. Don't forget about the 3. So there would be your final answer for D.